knew that a talk about food with a food specialist would be so impactful? In today's podcast episode, I am talking with Amber Abila, a binge eating specialist and mindset coach who helps people rewire their brains to finally feel free around food. But here's what was so fascinating. Everything she teaches about breaking food habits directly connects to how we procrastinate, how we avoid tasks, how we hold ourselves back, not only in business, but we were relating it to organizing too, and letting things go and making decisions and following through. Now, Amber says a few things you've probably never heard before when it comes to food and rest and true rewards. So we're going to get into it. But I also want to tell you that it is November and I am doing the 5 days, 5 deals Black Friday week again this year. I had so much fun doing this last year. Last year, I had an episode come out for each day teaching you a tool, and it was tied to the deal that I had that day. So if you do want to get on the wait list to get the early bird information on that, you can go to simplysquaredaway.com/BF, super simple for Black Friday, BF, and get your name on the wait list. Okay, let's get into this week's episode. Are you ready to work less, feel more organized and productive, streamline repetitive tasks, and implement systems that allow your coaching business to run smoothly even without you? If so, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Organized Coach Podcast, your go-to source for practical tips and solutions. I'm your host, Tracy Hoth, professional organizer, certified life coach, simplifying expert, and most of all, down-to-earth fellow coach just like you. No matter if you think you're missing the organizing gene, have ADHD, or just love anything organizing, I'm here to help you become an organized coach with a business that works for you. Pull up a seat and let's get started. Amber Abila, welcome to the Organized Coach Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Tracy. I'm excited to be here today.
So tell us first just about you, about what you do, and then we'll get into some of the questions that I have.
Yeah, so as Tracy mentioned, I help people stop binge eating by rewiring their brains around food so they can eat anything in moderation. And I do a lot of this work because I struggled with food for so long myself. I went to therapy for many years. I struggled with bulimia for a time period as well. It was really the full spectrum of food just felt like such a struggle. And I found myself thinking, I just want to eat normally. I just want to be like one of these people who can have a couple bites of cookie and forget about it, who just like don't really think about food. They just listen to their hunger and stop when they're full. And it was always so complicated to me. No matter what I tried so many different diets and intermittent fasting. I tried cutting out sugar because I thought sugar was the problem. And no matter what I tried, I kept coming back to binge eating. And it wasn't until I came across this blog post while I was scrolling through my searches on how to stop binge eating. I remember I got to page 50 one day because it was all the same. Everyone was telling me to just like drink water, call a friend, take a bubble bath. And I came across this blog article that talked about how binge eating could be just a habit and how this woman had viewed it this way. And that really changed everything for her. And I had this big light bulb moment where I was like, oh my gosh, yes, it's just a habit that has formed after I had this period of dieting and restriction, which to our lower brains is essentially meaning that the earth is going through a famine and there is no food anymore. So we better get as much food in as we can right now while we have it. And then every time I did that, I started to create this habit loop around binge eating. So that way, even when I stopped restricting, which is something else everyone told me is like, just eat more, just stop restricting, I still binged because my brain had then associated that habit with something that was necessary for survival, even though I didn't logically need those extra 1,000 calories a day. That's what had been ingrained in my brain. And so when I started looking into the psychology of habits and then later getting a certification in coaching our unconscious brain and going to these deeper layers of why we might get stuck and feel unsafe to change our habits, I realized that it was much simpler than I thought it could be, with a lot of times therapy making it so complicated and just like so much deeper than it really needs to be. And that's what really led me to learning how to stop binge eating and now being binge free for over 4 years and really teaching other people how to do the same and rewire their brain around food.
That is so amazing. And that one thought, this is just a habit. I mean, that is incredible. It gives me chills just thinking about that. And how thoughts, like if someone else was thinking I have to create a habit, how it might be so hard. But when you tie it here and it's just a habit and how freeing that is. All I have to do is change my habit.
Mm-hmm. And kind of a variation of that thought too, that really was huge in my journey is just because I have a thought doesn't mean it's true. So just because my brain is telling me I need a lot of food right now, it does not mean my body actually needs a lot of food. Just because my brain is telling me I can't sit with this discomfort, it's too hard, doesn't mean I actually can't do it and it's too hard. So starting to get the separation between, that what my habit brain had been saying all these years and then what could actually be true that I know from my logical brain, and seeing how these two things are actually separate. It's not just my brain thinks something and I have to believe it. That also was really huge in getting that space and starting to see how I could stop overeating and binge eating.
So good. Okay, which makes me think, like if you decide that you're a binge eater, if you label yourself with that, I was thinking of how we relate it to business. And we might relate or label ourselves as a procrastinator. And so kind of relating the two, how you help people with food and how how it relates to procrastination. I just thought that was a really interesting thing that I want us to explore kind of together.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just within that identity piece is so big. People will be like, oh, I'm just the type of person who procrastinates. I'm just the person who's really messy. I'm just disorganized. And this is something they do a lot of times in the anonymous world. So Alcoholics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, where you go in and you say, hi, I'm Amber and I'm an alcoholic or I'm an overeater. And that is the absolute worst thing you could ever possibly do if you're trying to change something, because that has made it now part of your core identity. And it does feel good in the moment because you're like, you're releasing like the shame around it and you're admitting that it's a problem. But because it makes it part of your core identity, it makes it almost impossible that you'll ever be able to release that then. So same thing with all of these identities that we have around our business and organization. We need to start shifting out of that. And something that I love to do is just helping people look at, in the past, I have binge eaten. In the past, I have struggled with food. In the past, I have procrastinated. In the past, I might have been disorganized. But who I've been in the past does not mean anything about who I'm going to be in the future. And that starts to make it as an action that you've taken or something that's happened versus something that is who you are.
Yes, I love that. And when you just said that, it's who I've been in the past doesn't make a difference to who I am in the future. Or I was like, or who I am in this very moment. Like too. So just share a moment when distracting thoughts around food shifted into like distracting thoughts around your business or goals, your daily goals.
Yeah. So we were talking before this, and a big term that's become popularized in recent years is this term of food noise. And food noise is something that's been around for many years for people, where they talk about, I'm thinking about food all day, I'm obsessing around food. And really, those thoughts can be really distracting when we're trying to focus on other goals. When you sit down to work on your business or just your normal job or whatever else you're focusing on, what food noise is essentially just our thoughts around food. But they tend to be more frequent. They tend to be more filled with anxiety. So what this sounded like a lot to me in my journey was I would be thinking about what I ate last night. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I binged again. Like, how am I going to make up for it today? I can't believe, I'm never going to solve this. It just feels so hard. Or then I would be thinking about what I was going to eat later. Oh, what's going to be for lunch? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Oh, there's Oreos in the pantry. I really want an Oreo. And then there would be some urges that come along with it of, oh my gosh, I feel like I need an Oreo right now. I can't focus on anything else because I just am thinking about the food. And then maybe you go eat the food. And then you're thinking about, again, oh my gosh, I can't believe I ate this food. And then beating yourself up, maybe spending time Googling how to stop binge eating, going to listen to a podcast. So it really is such a time-consuming habit, like that we just spend thinking about all day. Yeah. Because again, something is about food is that it is one of our most biological basic needs. And so if we are not having a solid relationship with that and a foundation with that feels good, it is going to distract away from every other area in our business and our life because we can't stop thinking about food all day.
Yeah. It makes me think about people with disorganization too. Like, oh, I missed that meeting. I'm such a mess. I can't get my calendar situated. Like, I can't find anything I need. Why didn't I do this before? I should be able to get it together. Kind of those same things. Yeah. So then what do we do about it?
Yeah, so it's first important to look at where this food noise is coming from. So, one, if you are restricting, that's always the first part. And how I define restriction is if you are frequently pushing off your hunger signals for more than 30 minutes. So a lot of people are like, oh, I'm scared I'm restricting. Like I'm waiting a little bit to get through this meeting to have a snack. And it's like, no, that is not restriction. That is just like living your everyday life. But if you are restricting, your brain is going to be thinking about food because it's trying to get you to eat. Just like if you were to not drink water all day, you're probably going to obsessively think about drinking water. And that doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It just means your brain's trying to go get you to drink water. So that's always the first step. But then the second step is to really look at, well, what are these thoughts around food specifically? So getting more clear if it's like, oh my gosh, there's Oreos in the pantry and I really want the Oreos, but I probably shouldn't have them and they're unhealthy and they're bad. Those are all the thoughts that we need to start untwine. And I would go back to this original thought I have of like, are these thoughts true? Like, is it true that I shouldn't have an Oreo right now? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it wouldn't be a problem if I just had one, I enjoyed it and moved on. Maybe I've already had half the row today. And so I need to pause and think through these thoughts a bit more and dissect them. If it's like, I feel like they're unhealthy, so they're off limits, we might want to look at, okay, how is it true that maybe they can bring us some joy and pleasure in our life and that is healthy? And that gets us out of this scarcity mindset around food, which is where I see a lot of people feel like they're having to white knuckle their way through the day is like, okay, I just got to get through these thoughts around food when really it's like, well, I feel like I'm never going to get this food again because I'm telling myself diet starts tomorrow. I'm going to be good tomorrow. And then they just become overflooded because we just feel like we're never going to get these foods again.
Yeah. It makes me think too, like sometimes when I'm coaching with someone, they say, when I'm asking them, well, is that true? Sometimes it is true. They have all that evidence that it's true. So one of the things I like to ask too is what else could be true? What is also true? And then they think of some other options. And it's so fun because they just hadn't thought of those ideas before because they believed, like you're saying, that that thought is so true. And so it's just yesterday I was telling them, okay, so all that's fine, but what else is true? Let's make sure we spend some time over there. And it's so helpful, like to have a coach that can see that and help you think of some other things that might actually be true as well. So I love that. Do you think there's like common excuse thoughts that keep us procrastinating? Kind of like how do they mimic food binges?
Yeah. So let's think about some of the thoughts that we have when we're procrastinating. It's like, I don't want to do this. I'll start tomorrow. It's too hard. I'm bored. I need a break. Those can definitely sound similar to like our food thoughts, or in the very least, just make us want to go to food. So a lot of times eating can be a form of avoidance where we come up to a task that feels overwhelming. It feels uncertain. We're like, let's go do something. Let's go have a snack. And so it kind of becomes this buffer that masks maybe some of our deeper fears about doing that task. Maybe we're scared of being more visible and posting on social media. Maybe we're scared of saying no to reach out to that podcast, or that if we try this new thing, we're going to be a failure. And so it's like, yeah, I think I need a little space from these thoughts. Let me go get a snack. Now, food is really interesting because food is oftentimes a very socially acceptable form of a break. And I see this happen a lot with women who we aren't taught that it's okay to rest and that it's okay to just take a break and that it's okay to do nothing, especially in a capitalistic society where we're taught our worth is based on how productive we are. And so a lot of times it's like, you know, I might need space from this task a little bit, or I might need to coach myself, or I might need to look at what's going on beneath the surface here. But I don't want to look like I'm not being productive. So I'm going to go take a snack break in the break room. And then it looks like I'm still doing something. So that is something that I'd watch everyone out for, is like looking at, okay, am I using it because I feel like I need a break, when really, if I just gave myself permission to have a break, I probably wouldn't need to go to the food.
Oh, that's interesting. It makes me think of myself. So I have an office upstairs and it gets hot in my office. Sometimes right after a call, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just need a break. And so I'll leave my office. It might, I mean, it's food sometimes, but it might not be as much as I need something to drink. Like I need to have a special, you know, something that tastes good or whatever to just get out of here. But I've never once thought, oh, I just need to go lay on the floor flat for 10 minutes. You know, like I just need to rest. I'm going to try that. I love that.
Yeah. So it's kind of looking at our beliefs around rest and, what would it mean if I just sat here and did nothing? Like if something comes up, we're like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. That's probably your work this week is to sit there and do nothing and just practice giving your brain that like true rest and that true break. Because, food can be a reward. It's not a problem to sometimes use food as a reward if we are hungry for it and we have space in our body. Because if we're not, then what's going to happen is we eat the food, we're overly full, and that's going to make it so much harder to show up for our workday. A reward is something that's going to feel good to us before, during, and after doing it. So thinking about like if we go to get a massage and we think about going to the massage before, I'm like, oh, I'm so excited for a massage. And then we go to the massage and during it, we're like, this is so enjoyable. I'm loving massage. And then we leave it after and we're like, ah, that was great. I'm so glad I took that time and space to get a massage, right? It feels good before, during, and after, which means it's a true break. If you think about what happens when you go to food, if it is feeling good before you do it, during and after, then maybe not a problem if you do just have like something small on occasion. But it's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting some anxiety about eating this food. Then I'm eating it really frantically. And then after, I'm feeling more stressed than I was before. Now I feel overly full in my body. I'm feeling sluggish the rest of the afternoon. Maybe my blood sugar shot up because I just had something really sugary or carby. That is not going to give us a reward. That is actually a punishment. And that is going to cause the rest of our day to go so much worse than if we didn't have that snack in the first place. Something with that too that's coming up is a lot of people will use this excuse of, well, I need energy throughout my day. Like, I'm just tired. I need a break. I need something to energize me. But food can only give us energy if we are hungry for it, because that is its purpose, is to give us energy when we don't have energy through the form of calories. But if we are not hungry for it, our body's telling us, hey, we don't need energy in the form of calories. Maybe we need to rest and take a little nap, lay down on the floor, like you said, just do something that's actually truly energizing. Because again, if we eat the food when we're not hungry, it's going to take away our energy, because now our body's having to process all that extra calories. Our digestion is having to work extra hard, and our digestion is our most energy intensive process that we do every single day. So if we're turning that on when we're already tired and we're not hungry for it, it's just going to make everything kind of down for the rest of the day.
Oh, you said so many things in there that I have not heard before, like making space in our body, or if our body doesn't have space in it for food. I was like, I have never thought about food like that before, but I love that thought. Even thinking about our organization or our businesses, like, where is the space that we need in those things? Oh, so good. And then the other thing you said was that reward. I've never thought about that either. Feels good before, during, and after. I have a hard time like setting up rewards, and like, you always kind of say, if you want to make a habit, make sure there's a reward. And I'm like, well, I kind of do whatever I want anyway. So thinking of a reward I don't know. Sometimes it's really hard, but that's such a good framework to look at rewards. I've never heard that before, Amber. So thank you for sharing that.
I think for a lot of people too, the work is around allowing the thing itself to be the reward. So not always needing a special little treat for every single thing you do. The reward is you finished your to-do list. The reward is you sent out that proposal that felt really scary and you might get a yes for it. That is the reward. So we don't always need to have this treat, and having this thought of, oh, I need something right now is something that I encourage people to just sit with and be like, what if I didn't have something right now? Could the reward of just finishing this task alone be enough for me?
Ooh, that question. Could this reward? And I think about that with organization. Like, people might not want to be putting files into other files and looking at it and making decisions and deleting them. Yes, at the end of that 15 minutes or whatever time period you spent, could the reward be that you did it?
Yeah, and then you get to look at your organized files and it feels so good to know you finally will know where everything is. Like, that is the reward if we take the time to celebrate ourselves for it, which most of us don't do. We kind of just move on to the next thing in our to-do list of like, okay, next, which is I think why we've been trained to think, oh, I need something like super high dopamine as a reward, because we're never giving ourselves the time to celebrate what we just did and what we can be proud of ourselves for already today.
Yeah. I talked with clients in one of my groups about over celebrating. Like that is the dopamine hit that we need if we practice that. And so, good reminder for everyone now. Okay. So you teach a 6-step process for eating. Let's talk through your 6 steps and just parallel kind of how they relate to business.
Yeah. So I go through 6 steps in my Confident Eater program. The first one we work on is creating a positive food mindset. So this is all of that deeper mindset work and looking at how our thoughts, feelings, and actions are all related. A lot of work we do in this is looking at how to sit with your emotions and how to be at peace with them and how to not escape them right away. And I think that is such an important skill in business too, because there are going to be certain thoughts that we're going to have that are going to make us feel uncomfortable. And we need to either work on changing our thoughts or allowing that emotion to be there. So some things we do in business are just hard. Like that's just, kind of the truth about it. We're doing something new and uncomfortable that we've never done before. And that can be difficult. And if we just allow ourselves to sit with that feeling of, this is difficult, this is hard right now, and I'm going to bring so much love and compassion into myself right now through this experience, that will make it so we feel hopeful and inspired and motivated to go out and do the thing.
Yeah, that does relate to organizing too. A lot of times, especially in home, and maybe it's with business as well, but when you're letting go of things in your home or you're making decisions, it's hard and it can come with some big discomfort. So we can work on making it easier by thinking about the person that we're donating to or whatever, that makes it an easier task. But we can also just, I love how you said, compassionately be present with ourselves to sit with those emotions.
Yeah. Then the second thing I go into is my trigger food process. This is where we really focus on how to stop having that scarcity mindset around food that makes us go into all or nothing and think, I just want to eat the whole thing of Ben & Jerry's right now. I want to clear out the cabinets because I don't want it to be in there anymore because I know I'll eat it all. That all or nothing thinking is coming from the scarcity mindset. And what that means, a scarcity mindset that sounds like these thoughts like, there's never enough. I always need more. It's going to go away tomorrow. I want to hoard it all in. Versus an abundance mindset looks like there's plenty. I can always have more later. More is coming again and soon. It's not going anywhere. So those two mindsets are very different. And this definitely shows up in business. But with food, again, if you're thinking that a lot of this time, this mindset comes up because of the history of dieting, or it artificially puts you in this scarcity mindset of like, there's good food and the bad foods, and we better cut out the bad foods forever so we can be healthy, which we don't really need to do. But in business, where I see this showing up is a few places. One around like clients and money is like, there's never enough. I always need more. And I like to give the example with my clients of someone can be making $1 million a year and feel like they don't have enough money. And that leads them to be very hoarding with their money. They don't want to give any away. They don't want to spend it all. And that usually creates results of not making more money, or at the very least, not enjoying your money, not doing what you want with it. On the flip side, there can be someone who's making $50,000 a year and who's like, I have plenty for what I need. I can give generously. And they have a very different feeling and mindset around it that creates a different experience with it.
One of my coach friends, there's 3 of us that meet, and she was just saying that a client of hers was saying, they only had 25 million. And it was like, that was all, or, about something. And I'm like, it is no matter what amount of money we have, we can work on those emotions. Because I can't even imagine thinking that if I had 25 million. But someone that only has 20,000 could be thinking that about what amount we have.
So then the third thing I work on is people's urges. Urges were like the main core foundational aha moment around habits that I had. And how urges work there is some sort of cue or trigger in the world. Something happens that tells our brain, hey, do this thing that you've always done before. A big mistake people will make is they will try to avoid all of their triggers, and then that makes your life very small. This is really common in like the eating disorder world, where it's very much like, if your mother-in-law triggers you, just stop hanging out with your mother-in-law. And it's like, I mean, sure, but then you're making your life very small. Or if you're triggered by having sugar in the house, just never have sugar in the house. Maybe it will work for a little bit, but you're probably going to encounter it again.
Yeah.
But okay, anyway, so you get the trigger, the cue happening, and then you're going to get an urge. This is this strong feeling of desire to do that habit. It's where the dopamine gets released and says, okay, it's time for you to do that thing. And then what do? You eat or you do your habit and you get that reward of that, which is the food. And then that reinforces that pathway. So then the next time you're in that situation, your brain says, I know what to do. We always bitch in this situation. Let's do that again. Now, the key to stopping that loop is not to change your triggers, but to change your responses to the urges. And that's really what I do a lot of deep work with my clients around. And what that looks like is if we don't act on the urge, then we don't do the thing and we don't get the reward of it. So the brain pathway unwires itself. It stops reinforcing it and it starts to fade away. A lot of times people think, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get the reward of food. But as we just talked about, celebration can be a reward. And that's what we want our new reward to be, is like getting really excited and proud of ourselves. I didn't do that old habit again. I did something new. And that will reinforce the new brain pathway of sitting with urges. So something I'm going to have in the show notes is my guided urge audio. And this is something that I created because I so desperately wish I had in my journey. And we can talk about, you could probably use it with business situations too. But specifically with food, I give you a couple of reminders about like basically what urges are, that they're meaningless, they're powerless, they're harmless, they can't hurt you, you're not going to die from them. But I also walk you through a visualization. Visualization is one of the most powerful tools that is so underutilized. There's so much research on visualization. They've done studies where people have imagined playing the piano for a month versus actually playing the piano, and they have the same progress in their piano skills. So our brain often does not know the difference between something that has happened in real life and something we deeply imagine, which is why sometimes people will be in the car, like having a whole conversation with their husband in their head and get really angry, and then they'll come home and be really angry at their husband. That experience didn't happen, but you just told your brain that it happened because you imagined it so vividly in your head. So we can use this to imagine two different situations around food that I walk you through, which is one, what happens if we eat right now and we do act on this urge? It's like, okay, you tell yourself chapter 1 of the story, it tastes so delicious, but that is not the end. There's chapters 2 through 10 that come. And that is, okay, now I'm looking at the wrappers around me. I feel really guilty. I check in with my body. I'm feeling super bloated and full. I try to go back to work. I'm too distracted to work. I just feel like I need to lay down, take a nap. I don't sleep well that night. I wake up, I'm still tired. So then I skip the gym and then I feel bad at work again. We can show our brain that picture. And then on the flip side, we can also show our brain the picture of, well, what happens if I sit with this urge right now and I don't eat? It's like, okay, it feels a little uncomfortable in the beginning, but then what? It's like, hey, then I get to be really proud of myself. Then my brain pathways literally start to rewire themselves in that moment. Then I show up to work so much more focused and confident in myself. And maybe I ask for a raise that day because I'm just feeling so freaking good. And then I earn more money. And then I wake up in the morning and I feel even better. And it just creates this positive loop moving forward. So in business, you can use this around so many areas. I'm thinking about, I just mentioned like if you're going to ask for a raise, if you're going on a consultation call with a client, all of these things, we might start to picture this like negative outcome of, oh my gosh, they're going to be really mad at me, or if I ask for this raise, or I don't know, it's probably going to go well. And then we start to show up that way when we do go into that experience versus if we visualize ourselves acting confident, showing up how we want to be, saying the things we want to say, we've essentially created a future memory for our brain that allows it to do it so much effortlessly because it now has the blueprint of how we want to be.
Yes, that visualization. So in my mind, I think, oh, but that takes effort and work to do it, which no kidding. So does all the effort and work that it takes to regret the choice that you just made and beat yourself up and all this other stuff. So do the work of that visualization beforehand. I love it.
Exactly. If you're not doing the work there to learn how to sit with your urges and then use some of these tools, you're going to be paying it for it later with your time and energy. And I would much rather be using, 10 minutes to sit down and visualize myself getting through this urge with food than to deal with the consequences of not only feeling bad immediately after ruining my day, but then also the long-term consequences of weight gain, possible health consequences, hundreds of doctor's visits down the road because we didn't spend the time now to figure it out. And same thing in our business, spending that time now to really get our mindset right will save us years and years of excess time and energy doing the wrong things where we're just not quite in it, or not showing up with the right energy that isn't going to give us the results that we want.
Yes, that's so good. I've been working on this with making offers, and getting in the right mindset ahead of time is so powerful. Not just trying to think a new thought, but like really realizing, oh, look at me. I'm consumed with these thoughts. what else is true? How do I think about that? And then adding that visualization piece in it is so good. Totally take different actions from that.
Yeah. I think on the organization side with urges too, there can be urges to buy things with shopping. That makes always things worse. If we don't address that, we're just bringing in new things all the time. And so it's never going to matter how much organization we have, which honestly, that kind of brings me to my next pillar, which is listening to your hunger and fullness. Something that comes up a lot when people are trying to stop when full is that they don't want to waste food. They don't want to throw anything away. Their body's full, but they're like, I don't care. I'm going to have those last few bites. Or they don't want food to go bad, so they eat it anyways. They don't want to say no to people who are offering them food, and then they're scared that food's going to go bad. So there's a lot of fear around a waste with it. And one of my favorite analogies for people with this is, if you were going around to a garage sale and there was a whole bunch of free things out that's kind of nice, but you're like, I don't really know if I need them, but you're like, they're free. So I'm just going to take them home today, or I'm just going to take them home with me today. But then you had to pay for a storage unit because you have no more space in your home for all of this shit. So you have to pay for the storage unit now for all of this free stuff. It is not actually free. It is costing you more in your life than it is worth. The same thing happens in our body where, yes, the food is free, but if we are full and satisfied, our body is done. It has no more use for any additional calories. So then it has to ship all this extra food to your fat storage in your body where it's going to add up and you're going to pay for that in a different way. So nothing is truly free once we are already full or once we have already filled up the space in our house, once we already need it. And it's not actually a waste then because we don't have use for it in our body or in our home, in our life.
Okay, that gave me the vision of all of us coaches downloading free things on our computer. And yes, now we're paying for storage and now we're adding that up. And not only that, like physical space in the computer and storage space, but also in our mind. Like our mind is now, I have 47 new ideas and things that I want to look at and I need to focus on, instead of simplifying it, deciding the 1, 2, 3 things that you're going to focus on and eliminating all the other things.
Right. Like buying 3 courses and being like, okay, I have to watch all of these. And then there's this freebie. And then, there's this YouTuber that I want to watch. You're just cluttering up so much. And that's costing you so much more than if you would have just spent the money on the one thing that you need, just like in your life, just buy that one thing that you actually need and then eliminate all the rest and just learn to find peace and make results with what you have versus constantly going to new things, because that's what, wastes so much of our time and energy.
So even relating it to this, the thought is, but there's so much temptation. There's so much, like, even I think that I'm like, oh, but that looks so good. Oh, but I want to learn that. Like, yeah, that's there. That's real.
Yeah. And I think that's knowing when to give into the temptation and when not to, like when this is something that you were like, yes, this is something that I've wanted in my business for a long time. This is something that I know that I need versus, oh, this is a new shiny object and it looks really good. Same thing with our bodies, that if you're like, hey, my hunger has been building gradually the last 5 hours. I know that I'm actually hungry for this pizza that was brought out. It makes more sense versus, oh, I think I was hungry, but the pizza was brought out and I decided, so I want some pizza now. It's not really a true desire or need because it wasn't super intentional. Your body didn't tell you you needed it. And I think the same thing can be made with any like downloading any freebies, making any coaching decisions, buying new things in our life is like, has this been a desire for more than the last 10 minutes? And if not, let's wait, because if it's something I still really need, then I can always have it later. And just like with food, if we're not sure if it's hunger or not, we can just wait, 10 or 15 minutes. And if we're still feeling like we're hungry, we can have something. But if we're not, it will probably go away.
Yeah. And it that underlying belief, I think, with coaches or business owners, entrepreneurs, there's that thought that, that's the answer. That's the thing I need versus, yeah, but I've planned it in for this quarter and this is my focus and this is what I'm going to be looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's so good. Okay. What number are we on?
The 5th pillar is confidence. And this is where I teach people have unshakable self-confidence in their body. A lot of times there's a lot of tie-in with weight equals worth. The number on the scale means how lovable I am, how worthy I am, how much money I'm going to make, how happy I'm going to be. And that is just not true. And all of the studies on body image actually show that our body size does not correlate to our confidence. So we often think that, that person at that weight, she's probably so much more confident than me. Nope, it doesn't really matter. What matters is our thoughts about it and how we choose to perceive our body. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier of, choosing our thoughts intentionally and making sure that we are showing up how we want to be and bringing this energy into our business, into our life to make sure we're creating those results. And it can also bring in the scarcity mindset where we think a lot of times with weight loss, like it's never enough. I'm never going to be good enough. I'll never lose enough weight. There's always like this future perfectionistic standard around food in our body that will never really happen. And we keep on chasing it. And we forget that life is happening right now, that memories are being made right now. And if we keep chasing this future standard to wait to be happy, it's never going to happen. So same thing in business where, the money goal keeps getting moved and moved and moved. And that's okay because there is technically unlimited money to be made. But we have to realize that our life is happening right now and it's time to experience our life and allow ourselves joy and pleasure and fun and all of the good things right now, not when we get there.
Yeah, I love that. That is so needed. It's just a reminder we probably need to hear every day.
Yeah.
Love it.
And then the last one is shifting your identity to make your progress permanent. And again, we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but really making sure that we look at how do we view ourselves in the world? And if I'm making this mean that I'm an unorganized person, or I just can't start a business, or I'm going to be this weight forever, or it's just my genetics, those are going to be limiting beliefs that are going to stop you from getting where you want to go and make you self-sabotage so you go right back down to where you are. A lot of times where we are to our brain feels safe, even if it's not where we want, because it's how we've been for so long. There might have been some beliefs that we learned as a kid. Either maybe it's really bad to be overweight or it's really bad to be underweight. There's always going to be, lack of food because I had brothers who were eating all food all the time. So we learned those beliefs, and that's taking into account our identity of, I'm scared of food scarcity. So all of these things we want to make sure to address from the root cause of like, what are the beliefs about ourselves and how is that showing up in our life and business and eating in all the areas?
What I just was noticing as you were telling me the steps is just how beneficial and how much our mind plays into whatever goal it is that we want to reach. And one of the things we kind of talked about before is our intuition and how do we trust that in our eating or in our business or making these decisions about if we should get up and do another task and procrastinate or if we should take charge. Do you have any insight on like intuition or trusting yourself?
I think it goes back to how does this feel in my body? So if we start to tune into our body, it will tell you whether or not this is the right decision. And what I mean by that is if you ask yourself, do I want a cookie right now? And you're feeling pretty calm and just peaceful about it. And you're like, yeah, I would like to sit down with my kids today or to have a little break from work. And I'm really just going to enjoy this cookie peacefully and mindfully. I'm going to move on with my day. Like, great decision. But if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed, I'm so frantic today, your energy is all over the place. You're like, I'm just going to go get a cookie. Feel like, I'm not really hungry. You will feel this misalignment in your body being like, I don't really know. This doesn't really feel like the right thing for me. So there's a lot of times so much information in our body that we are just tuned out of because we're in our heads all day. We're go, go, go. We're not taking that moment to sit and pause with what we notice. And I literally tell people, like I mentioned earlier, sit down and do nothing for 5 minutes. Stare at a wall and just pay attention to what's going on in your mind and body. Because when we are getting all this constant input all day, we're working all day and then we're checking social media and then we're coming home and putting on TV. Our brain and bodies have no time to rest and process all this information that we've been giving them. And that really disconnects us from our signals in so many different ways, both our hunger and fullness and also our intuition of what's the next right step for me, whether that's in my business or with my hunger or, just what I want to do for the day. So really taking that time and space to just allow more mindfulness in your life where you're just being present with what's going on in my head, what's going on in my body.
That's a great practice right there. If you want to take one thing away, is just start with 1 minute and just sit and think about what's happening. Yeah. So good. Okay. What about for you in your business personally? Like, is there something, mindset shift or anything that helped you increase your income? Or when you notice like a breakthrough happen, what has it been for you? I think it's fun to hear what these are.
It's always come back to remembering that I have the solution and I'm here to help people. Anytime I get too focused on me and my goals and what I want, I become very disconnected with my business. But when I start focusing on my mission, my why, which is to help people feel less alone in their eating struggles, because for so long, I just kept everything to myself. And I told like my one best friend because I was like, I just need to tell someone about this. But it can be so isolating because people carry so much shame around their eating habits. And what I like to say to that is you're just eating food. Like there's truly nothing that weird about it. Yes, it might be more food than your body needs, but it's ultimately like you're just eating food, girl. It's not that bad. So getting rid of that shame around it is a big part of my mission for me. And so I think being really connected to what is my mission and why is this so important to me and coming in service of people and reminding yourself that, when I started my journey doing this 5 years ago, I knew none of this. And so sometimes we get in our heads because we're thinking, oh, it's not that great. It's not new. That's not that special, but it's because we do it all day, every single day. We have become masters in these skills and we are using them already in our everyday life. But back when we were in that position, we didn't know any of this. And that's where so many people in the world are right now. And we want to share these tools because we know that so many people in the world are not sharing them. Just like the self-help world in general is so behind on what the latest psychology and neuroscience says about how our brain changes. And so if we have those tools, we need to be sharing them with people because so many people are using these old techniques and these old methods just that they're just not that they're not effective, but they just don't work as well as they can if we are using some of these other new tools that we've learned.
I love what you said there, which makes me think it's the same for me. I want to help people not feel so alone in their disorganization, in their eating habits, whatever. Because there is so much shame in that. There's so much shame in being disorganized and hiding and from your team and from the people in your life and not being able to find things. And you're just trying to hide and make sure you look like on the outside that everything's okay. So, it relates so much more than, I would think. So I have loved, Amber, having you on here and share these things. Thank you so much for being here. So how can people find you if they want help?
Yeah. So I also have a podcast called Become a Confident Eater that Tracy will be on as well. So you can go find her episode, assuming it's out around similar times. But you can also find me on my website at theconfidenteater.org. That is where you can find all my resources. My Instagram is The Confident Eater. I have a free Facebook support group called Become a Confident Eater. So really The Confident Eater is where you can find me in all the places.
Yes. And go download
Yes. So my audio is called Stop a Binge audio. It's going to help you address these urges in your brain. It's 7 minutes long, so you can just pop it on in your ears whenever you're having an urge to eat. And you can use this if you're having an urge to shop. You could probably use it if you're having an urge to buy a new program or something that you don't really need and it's just going to clutter up your life. I'm sure you can use it to so many different areas, but yes, that'll be in the show notes.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here, Amber.
Thanks, Tracy.
Wait, if you're finding this podcast useful, you must check out the Organized Coach Academy. It's my course where I walk you through every step to get your business organized, to get yourself organized, to save money and time, to prepare to hire someone, to do all the things that you want to do in your business with ease. Check that out at simplysquaredaway.com/OCA. Also, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but I would love it. It's my way of knowing that you're enjoying the podcast if you leave a written review. I have lots of freebies for you. They're linked in the show notes. You can find them in my bio on Instagram at Tracy Hoth. And until next week, have a beautiful day.